Okay, I figured out my key to success. Now I'm locked in. I learned how to open doors like a locksmith.
Welcome back. You're now locked in with DK and Atwood. I'm Atwood. Killer to my left, DK. Y'all gonna learn something today.
Gonna learn today.
Perhaps we all might. A lot of things, especially lately with judging in MMA, a lot of people have a lot of things to say. There's been some new rules that were voted on at the ABC conference in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago that are now in effect in MMA, so we'll talk about that. And again, as always, you know, from your fighter's perspective on these new rules, like how you think they may change the game and, you know,
For sure.
things like that. So the first rule is if there's an accidental foul that results in a cut or just, you know, any kind of bad laceration in the fight, fighters will have 5 minutes to recover. And during that time, a cut man will now be allowed into the cage to treat the wound, whereas before,
Huge.
right, before you had to wait until the end of the round, and God knows what can happen to that thing.
Well,
in that time.
or you know, somebody comes in and the referee just waves off the fight because he thinks it's so bad that it's
Right.
you know, or you know, he calls the doctor in and the doctor waves it off because that doctor's in regional MMA. This is big because you get a doctor in there. It's his first show. Never been to an MMA
Kind of scared
fight before.
to be liable for something.
Yeah, man. And he's scared, and then he waves off. He's like, that's too bad. You know, can't.
Yep.
And so this helps a little bit, but it also, you know, what if you don't have a cut man in your corner? What if the promotion isn't providing a cut man? Is that's gonna have to be a whole different thing? Are they gonna?
I imagine at that point it would
the promotion
be the
provide the
doctor.
cut man.
Say what now?
They might have to make a promotion
Hire a
provide
cut man?
a cut man.
Yeah,
for
or they might have a doctor come in and maybe instruct the corner on what to do. I
don't know, man, because you got to have, in order to get the stuff to stop a cut, it's called adrenaline, and it's like, I mean, there's certain other names, but adrenaline's the name of it. And what you do is you soak your stuff in the adrenaline and use Vaseline, like a mixture of that, and that's what goes to stop the cut.
So it's not just Vaseline alone.
It's not just Vaseline.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Cool.
And so you have to have a prescription for that. You have to be able to get that adrenaline. I mean, it's it's a drug. So what it does is it stops the bleeding. Pretty much, it kind of like shrinks the blood vessels and stuff.
Right on.
And so
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a good question. Like,
and
how would they?
And so, man, in New Jersey, you got a cut man. Usually, I mean, it's New Jersey knows, they know what they're doing. It's a pain in the butt fighting up there, but they're doing it the right way, man.
Right.
Like, you have to, where you go to get your medicals done at and everything else is at one location in New Jersey, and it's like they have a lady that sets you up with all your stuff to do your blood work and. Like, I mean, it's a process, man.
Right.
But I think this is big for fighters. They can keep on fighting, but are split wide open.
Yeah, nobody loses, right? The fans win and the fighters win, and anytime that can happen, I mean, it's obviously a good thing.
Yeah.
But with your point about these regional promotions, because a lot of them won't have a cut man per se. It'll be the corner that greases them before the fight,
or your corner's the cut man. So I mean, I've had to learn these things. That's why I know all this stuff, is because I've talked to cut men and I've done my research on everything. It's like, because I've been wrapping hands and I've been the cut man for people in their corner, cut man and corner for.
It may be a good time to be a cut man.
16, 17 years.
Start
you know what I'm saying?
Work.
Dude, I mean, I'm busy enough as it is.
Right.
That would be crazy traveling all over being a cut man. But that would, it's cool too,
Yeah.
But that's something that Megan, she knows how to wrap hands, man.
Really?
Yeah, Megan. She knows how to wrap hands. She knows how to do stuff. She's looked into trying to do that too. She actually. A friend of mine, Brandon Brillhart, he's a cut man for Bellator, And I've known Brandon since, man, I came to Gastonia, and I was training with Jeff Gimo at the time. And Jeff Gimo's he's a known but unknown coach. He loves staying in the background. He's not like a huge well-known fighter as far as like in the limelight and stuff like that. He's the last one to walk out of the tunnel. He doesn't really even go in the ring after somebody wins. But anyways, I was there and I got cut one time, and this Brandon shows up. Jeff calls this dude, and he comes there and freaking stitches me up right then and there because he was the EMT. Fast forward 10 years later, he's like a Bellator cut man, and traveling around with Bellator.
Yeah.
And being their cut man.
Well, a lot of those cut mans you see, like UFC, all these big promotions, like you see the same ones, just like with a lot of the referees.
Yeah, I want to say he's still EMT. He was still EMT and stuff like that. But Brandon's such a cool dude. He showed Megan some stuff. Megan kind of shadowed him one night. Yeah. So it was pretty neat, man. She's learned a lot. But I mean, being able to stop a cut in the middle of a fight, and then that dude is like, "Oh, I got to finish this guy."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's also, man, when you have a lull in the action like that and you're the guy that's messed up and you're getting your stuff fixed, I mean, you can start playing things in your head to go ahead and quit, to go ahead and give up. Why even fight anymore?
Yeah.
Like, dude, trust me, man, like I've fought 28 times. So, and I know that feeling. You start questioning a lot of things in your head when that doctor's looking at you and asking you if you can continue to fight or not. And so it's just it's tough, man. Being a fighter, and and then you got all those minutes to kind of for that person to fix out. They say how long you can fix it?
5 minutes.
5 minute break.
Minutes. So just about every foul now, you get 5 minutes to recover.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Man.
And speaking of cutmen, before we go on to the next rule change, so I was watching BKFC this past Friday night. There is a TikTok influencer YouTube guy that fought, first one to do it. His name is Bryce Hall, and he fought a cutman who is now boxing, and he was 3-0 in BKFC. And Bryce got him a knockdown really quick, and besides that, it was a good fight. Well, there was an exchange against the ropes where the cut man, I don't know if Bryce threw a punch that hit him on the elbow or something, but he went back to the corner wincing because it was at the end of the round, right? And they were like checking out his elbow, and in my head, I was like, I don't like to assume things, but I was kind of like, he might look for a way out because he already got dropped, and he's been getting hit hard. And I mean, sure enough, they end up calling the fight because he said he couldn't make a fist or whatever. But I only brought that up because we're talking about cutmen.
Yeah.
And you mentioned looking for a way out.
Yeah.
The next rule is one that we're going to see a lot. And, blame it on the gloves, whatever. Eye pokes are always a thing. They will more than likely always be a thing whenever you have grappling gloves. Exactly. You have to be able to move your fingers.
I mean, that would be kind of crazy if you had a webbing.
Right? I didn't even think about it. Yeah. A webbing. And then only the tips. But still, you can still poke somebody in the eye.
No, covered up, kind of. You've seen the baseball players.
Yeah.
Whenever they get on base now, they put an oven mitt on.
I know. I don't really watch much baseball.
So they don't break their hand whenever they're sliding head first.
Yeah. Okay.
And people stomping on it and stuff like that.
Right.
So they're wearing a plastic piece, and that's only been the past couple of years people started doing that. Legit, you don't see it now. Now it's you see it on. Maybe it's a rule. I don't watch much baseball either. But the baseball I do watch, I've been seeing that, but. I don't know, man, if there could be a type of glove or a curvature thing. See the MMA training gloves that they have, they're kind of bubble gloves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the hybrids.
And that helps a lot but they're thick. But I think with the curve, it's harder for you to straighten your hand all the way out.
But also with those kind of gloves and grappling exchanges, you get stuck here. Like, good luck.
That's why, the bubble, kind of prevents that. But it's odd. I like those bubble gloves, man, that have the curve, because it's so much. When I first started training, I think Combat Sports was the only people that made those little training gloves. Yeah. But you could still, your knuckles would be exposed, dude. And I'd get dudes that, man, they'd spar me. I've been cut like that. Boom, people hit me with the side of their knuckle right here while they're sparring. And so the new ones now, we use Combat Corner ones, and they come all the way down. They really fit to your hand really well, and they got a good bubble on them, so you can get some good exchanges in. Unlike training with regular MMA gloves on, and your knuckles are so exposed, and your fingers too, man. I've got eye poked, and that's what we're talking about is eye pokes. Is like, if I got eye poked in training and went down. I was down, dude, and it scratched my thing, dude.
Well, I mean, dude, look at some fighters Michael Bisping, great example, of what a bad eye poke can do. Yeah, like the guy doesn't have an eye. He has his eyes there, but he can't see out of it. But now for eye pokes, a timeout is called immediately. So when a timeout is called for an eye poke, the fighter is given 5 minutes to recover. But during that time now, they can be given a cold press for 60 to 90 seconds. Yeah, so probably somebody put a bag of ice or take the little inswell. I doubt that probably the inswell because it'd probably be too hard, but put a bag of ice on it. Man. And they're giving that before the doctor comes in to assess it. Yeah. So they're given time to recover because before the doctor takes it. Now they're like, let's look at the before the rule change. It's like immediately doctor comes in and you're like, dude, dude just poked me in the eye. Right. Like you immediately I can't see. Like, I need some time. Right. And they're like, if you can't see, then I'm like, dude, over. Just give me a minute and I'll be able to recover it. And sometimes you can't recover in that, and that's when it's bad. So giving them time is amazing. Yep. Because that's what it takes after an eye poke. Yep. It was an accidental thing. You should be given time, to recover. Yeah. From an accident, you get time to recover off a groin shot. So it's like I never understood that either, man. I'm like, of course the dude can't see. He literally just got poked in the eye. Yep. Literally got poked in the eye. So it shouldn't be an infraction on the guy because he can't continue. I mean, it ends up being a DQ for the other guy, but you don't want that to happen. Yeah, depending on where it is in the fight. Yeah, or it's a no contest. Or it's a no contest. Yeah, and which is not good for anybody. No. I've never had a no contest. I've never had a DQ. I've never won or lost that way. Both fighters would be being a no contest. You just did all that for. I don't even know how that works in terms of getting paid. I don't either, bro. That neither. Do you split your win percentage? Do you only get half of your win percentage? Yeah. No, you should get your show. Well, both guys should get their show. But they might not even get, since neither one won, they might not. You should be able to get at least half of your show. Or your win, you mean? Your win. Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah, so I think that was a cold compress. It's a great thing because, as you were saying, a lot of times if the doctor comes in immediately, they'll use a flashlight and look at it, and they're like, dude, can you see? And you're like, no, it just happened. I'm trying to, your eye is... you're going through this reaction. You're trying to open your eye, but your body is dude. Dude, I'm trying to protect your eye because obviously you lose your eyesight. It's like you're kind of screwed. And it's so watery right there for the first. Yeah, but your body's trying to protect your eye. It's trying to keep the eye closed. Right. Right. It's trying to close the eye. It's trying to get it watered. It's trying to, help you get your vision back. So the only thing to help that is more time. Yeah. And so anything after 5 minutes though, they got to call the fight. Yep. Yeah. And whenever it reaches the 5 minutes, if the doctor asks the fighter if they can continue or if they can see, they say no, then, obviously the fight is done. So those are two recent changes that I think are just going to really, it's a win for everybody. in that situation.
Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to talk about today, I've been seeing it a lot lately, is people talking about how MMA fights are scored or judged, right? So there's a lot of things that go into judging and even reffing a fight that most people, just unless you've been in the sport or you've done it, you have no clue.
Yep.
And just like I'm sure it's very aggravating or frustrating for you when there's people who have never fought that are trying to tell people how to fight. Like, it's the same for judges who are judging the fights and people are telling them that they're a shit judge. It's not. I think a lot of people need to step back and think that maybe it's not the judge. Maybe sometimes it's the criteria in which they have to judge, you know. Good, because they're only following the criteria. Absolutely. You know.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with the basics. I'm gonna try to just kind of roll through this for the most part. Obviously, you know, if you have anything you want to add, and just stop me. So judges fights first and foremost judged on effective striking and grappling. So those are the two things that should be considered the first priority in round assessments. Effective aggressiveness is plan B and should not be considered unless the judge does not see any advantage in the striking or grappling realm.
Yeah, because you can be aggressive and but
you can be aggressive and still be losing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And bink, bink, you're getting pieced up in the face, but you're chasing this dude down. He's just jabbing you. Bink, bink, bink.
Right.
He's stuffing takedowns. You're trying to grapple him, but he's turning you away, kneeing you in the body. You know, you're pressing, you're controlling the octagon or controlling the ring, by pressing him up. But if you haven't landed a shot, haven't landed a strike, but you're pressing the action and maybe throwing some stuff, but maybe it's not landing. Maybe a couple things.
Maybe it's not effective. You know,
exactly.
It's striking and grappling, but if it's not effective,
and so and so when you go back to the first thing is like effective striking and grappling, right? Goes ahead of aggressiveness.
Yep.
And so it's just, you know, you need to be both of those.
Yeah.
You know, you need to be striking effectively and you do need to be aggressive.
And I think it's important to mention aggressiveness as well as what they call plan C is cage or ring control. And that should only be assessed or even needed when all the other criteria is 100% even for both competitors. And that is an extremely rare occurrence.
Wow.
You know, so if the striking and grappling aren't even, aggression doesn't matter. If those three aren't even, control doesn't matter. So you'll see a lot of times when people are talking about fights, they're like, oh, but he controlled the fight. They had the control time on the screen. It was 15 minutes. Like, if the striking and grappling weren't even, and
he doesn't,
the aggression wasn't even with that, then that doesn't even play a role. And most people don't understand that, right? So, and then you can look at, well, what is effective striking and grappling? So legal blows that have immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute towards the end of the match, with the immediate weighing in more heavily than the cumulative impact. So basically, successful execution of takedowns, submission attempts, reversals, the achievement of advantageous positions that produce immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute towards the end of the match.
Wow.
That's very key.
Full mount.
Right. With the immediate weighing in more heavily than the cumulative impact. So legal blows that cause immediate damage or compiling damage to contribute towards ending the fight. And after a successful takedown, submission attempts, ground and pound, reversals, all count towards effective striking and grappling. While, you know, a takedown, you may get a takedown, but if they get back up or you just lay on them and hold them there, it may not be counted as effective grappling.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
And, you know, we see that all the time.
All the time,
Yeah. Dude. People are like, well, he had him down for, 3 minutes of this 5 minute round.
A lot of people think if they get them down to the ground that they're winning, that they should win.
Right.
And that's not it. Like if this dude's piecing him up and then he gets the takedown and just holds him there but doesn't effectively strike him, maybe the guy on bottom starts elbowing too, this top of the head. Maybe he's heel kicking the spine or the kidneys. Or
the person on the butt, bottom throwing elbows.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
he's throwing elbows
striking.
from the bottom, elbows, heel kicking, and the legs, heel kicking the butt, heel kicking the kidneys, and just being like boom, boom. Maybe he's trying to get up, but the guy's just burying his head in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, he's controlling, but that's the last tier. Right. The guy on the bottom's actually, boom, maybe split him over from the elbow.
Yeah.
From the bottom. I've seen guys go to posture up, and a guy throws a back fist, boom, from the bottom, slumps him, knocks him out.
And then
seen elbows from the bottom.
Not too long ago, Holland beat Jacare on his back, just with a series of just freaking haymakers that ended up, ultimately knocking him out. Or, well, I think it was a TKO. But, so, yeah, and these are all things that judges have to assess in real time.
Yeah.
And there's so many different factors that people just don't even think about it. And
yeah, but I hate some judges, man, that, you just know that they've never really trained or anything like that.
And I think most fighters have that mentality too, right? Yeah. Because and I do understand it. I get it. I think that and I don't know why. I mean, if they know what they're supposed to be judging, right? Like there's a lot of old heads in boxing still, right? Mm-hmm. There are a lot of older guys that did, judge boxing and now switching over and now they judge everything. Like, right, as far as combat sports, kickboxing, boxing. It's like because they know the judging standard that they're supposed to have because, they go to those ABC things, what I'm saying? But it's like, I think you should have to go to do so many like training sessions and stuff like that. I don't know how many times do they have to judge? Do you know? Well, typically for a ref or judge, you have to shadow. I think there's no set rule, but I think it's kind of like an unwritten rule, like at least like 5-6 times, or until the people you're shadowing deem that you know enough.
Deem you worthy.
Right. Yeah.
You are worthy, Sir Atwood. You are now a referee held underneath the power of the state of South. My accent changed completely.
It actually wasn't that bad. You started off, it was great when it
started off well, but then it was just like I just started rambling after that.
But anyways. But yeah, man. So, both top and bottom position fighters are assessed more on the impactful or effective result of their action, more so than their position. So basically what we were just saying, like you could get the takedown, hold him there, maybe even transition to side mount
control, but never do anything.
Exactly. Then it's like it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I've seen that happen. Seen it happen, dude.
And then
it's happened to some of our people.
The next criteria that will be, a deciding factor in a high majority of decisions when scoring around, because oftentimes fights are very close as the striking and grappling is concerned, is, we already talked about effective aggressiveness, right? So people might be like, well, what is considered effective aggressiveness? Chasing after an opponent with no effective result or impact should not render in the judge's assessments. So if the other fighter is backing up or against the cage, but the aggressor isn't dealing any damage, the judges shouldn't consider that as effective aggression. Because effective aggressiveness is only to be assessed if the striking and grappling is 100% equal for both competitors. So just like you said earlier, you might be chasing this dude down. You might have him on the fence. You might be throwing shots, whether he's blocking or he's evading. Yeah. That's not effective aggressiveness because you're not causing damage.
Exactly.
Right? Which fall into effective striking and grappling. And then we talked about the fighting area control. That's assessed by determining who is dictating the pace, place, and position of the match, and only assessed if striking, grappling, and aggression are equal. So if you're one of those people that you look at control and aggression and all that, and you don't even understand what effective striking or grappling is, please, for the love of God, shut up.
Ooh, he said shut up.
I just can't with that anymore. And I think
he's talking about the keyboard warriors out there. Stop being keyboard warriors when you don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Man, judges have done more training than a lot of dudes out here talking smack, and that's why I stay shutting up. Like now when there's an obvious that was obvious that guy won. So it's like, but when it's a close fight, then you got to take into account all these little bitty things,
Yeah.
And then especially if you got a fighter that you like.
Yep.
That's your guy. That's who you wanted to win. you're gonna see every good thing that he does, and that wasn't nothing. Nah, that wasn't
Right.
He won that. And then so when there is a decision that doesn't go his way, it wasn't the hometown guy,
Yeah.
right? Then people get in uproars or whatever when the
absolutely.
underdog
And
takes him out.
I will also say, like, I'm a certified judge, even though I've never judged, and I just did it because I was there and it was a part of the class.
Certified.
Like, yeah. Not licensed, but certified.
Certified, and they got a stamp and everything.
Right. I got knighted by Blake Rice.
Knighted. Sir Atwood.
Next time I have to go and take the class over it, that I want him to
do that.
Yeah.
We got to get that on camera.
Do that but it's like,
hear ye.
People, they just don't, I don't know, man. It just gets, like I was saying, it gets on my nerves. And real quick, I will say, too, that when it comes down, like you were saying, you think that judges should have some sort of experience fighting and everything. I see what you're saying, but for the sake of having an opposing view, I will say, like, I don't necessarily think that you have to be a fighter to be able to look at this criteria and tell if somebody's getting their ass kicked.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree 100%.
But I will say, I don't think it would hurt by any means.
Yeah.
Just like I think a lot of refs, even though I don't have any fighting experience, most of the refs I know and have worked with do. They were fighters at some point, have had some sort of cage
But most
fight.
people train.
Right. But
the good
every single one of them
train.
will tell you should absolutely train jiu-jitsu, because it can only help and it will help in determining
what's going
things.
on.
Right.
You know what the position, if it's
trouble,
a bad position or not.
Absolutely.
Like, this guy needs to get under and get the fuck up. If he doesn't get up, like, he's going to get pounded out.
Right.
And he's getting pounded. Hey, dude, you better move.
Or,
you warn
man, he
him,
could
like,
be
hey,
getting
man,
choked
you
from
better,
here.
Yeah, you better move, bro. Oh, that's bad position. Oh, it doesn't look good. You're done. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
I wanted to be a ref. Man. I was thinking about getting
I think
into
you'd make
that.
a great ref, but obviously when you have fighters underneath you, in your
it takes
corner,
me. Yeah, and that's what the whole thing is, man. And so it would be cool. It'd be fun to be in the cage again, and
obviously it's not an adrenaline rush like when you're fighting, but man, it is an adrenaline rush.
Always, dude.
Yeah.
You hear those gloves smacking dudes' faces, man.
Dude, and it makes you realize too, like it's a whole new appreciation for the sport, because like when you're watching on TV, you might hear it smack, or you might not.
Dude,
but when you're
right
in
next
there,
to it, you get some
might
sweat and blood on you.
Because sometimes, let's face it, some of these heavyweights, it doesn't look like they're throwing hard, but man, when you're there and you hear it, you're oof. I had to stop myself from making faces sometimes, like. Because I don't want to show any bias, But,
dude, I'd be in there.
But my girlfriend's sat ringside at a couple fights, and she's like, I can always tell because I can just see it on your face. I'm like, really? Damn, I got to get better at not doing that. But it's hard because I'm a fan too, And when you're a judge, you have to. There is a huge difference between watching the fight as a fan and then watching as a judge, and that is a hard thing to do too, because. Sometimes I will try to watch these UFC fights and be like, all right, I'm going to try to watch it as a judge. And halfway through the fight, I'm like, I have not been watching this as a judge. It's strictly as a fan, because I'm not paying attention to like the very little details. Yeah. I just get so caught up in just like.
See, the thing about fights, I like studying the fight. I like pausing and rewinding and seeing all the little intricate details that made that thing happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's something about that I do. I'll follow this guy on Instagram, and now I just drew a blank. But I follow him, and he talks about rhythm stepping. So that's after you throw a strike, and then you got that little hop, that little bounce. People, you see the guys with their feet.
Yep.
That's a tick. It's almost like a tick. It's a reaction. These fighters think that looks cool. So I'm talking to you. If you do that, it's going to get you in trouble, right? It's going to get you in trouble. You start hopping after you do a strike, right? Like you're going to get in trouble. L stepping. So an L step is when you're kind of moving to the right and you take your left foot and you kind of kick it back and you go completely square and then you push off and go to your right.
Okay, yeah.
Like an L.
Yep.
Right. So your feet are here and then you kick your left leg back almost square with your right leg, and then you push off with your left leg to the right. And it's kind of like a skip switch thing. And guys, and he just breaks down the fights that, when guys do that and boom, they're getting high kicked because they're squared up, or they get crossed because they squared up, or all these different things. So I study a lot of that stuff. Yeah, man, it's
and sometimes it's not even like things like that. It's just like, Dustin Poirier always reaching out, grabbing his shorts and pulling them up. Yeah. It can be any kind of like little habit.
When you're in that 5 minutes, or as a pro fighter, and now that I look back at some of the ways I hit mitts, and I was like, I didn't really skip much. I was always in my stance because my coach always had me in my stance. Sometimes he'd have me like, all right, you're good, but then it was like he was always having me. He called it sitting. Right, always bending my knees, always keep staying low, always like staying crouched down, so I'm ready to fire, because that's what you get your power and your energy from, is from the ground, right? So we want to be rooted down into that ground. So when we release that, power shot, it connects hard, or a jab feels like a cross when it's really just a jab. That's kind of like your setup shot for your power punch, So, but I mean, that's why it's called the sweet science, man.
Yeah.
So it's wild to look at it from that perspective, and break each down. It makes the fights last longer, and people that aren't around me don't really enjoy them as much as me, because I get excited for a little bit. I'm like, oh, did you see that?
Yeah.
Like, that was nice, man. That was high level stuff right there. Some people just don't understand it, so it's tough.
Yeah, well, because to a lot of people, it's just a fight. It's just pure entertainment.
Get him down, elbow him, throw them bows.
Hit him, Jed. Hit him.
Hit him down. Take him down. Man, he slammed him, Bo, but didn't do anything. So that's like, he slammed him real hard, but he didn't. That's like, what's a slam?
And occasionally, people like that, you might hear them say, well, that was a 10-8. That's a 10-8.
They gotta have the country accent,
right? Fights are scored on the 10-9 must system.
It's a 10-8. 10-8 now.
Do you? Let me ask you. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Do you know how 10-8 rounds are determined? Do you know like the criteria at all?
Ooh. Man, you did put me on the spot.
Because this is another thing that a lot of people will argue about online.
It has to be. Go ahead and tell me, and I'm gonna.
Okay. All right. So there's something that we call 3Ds. So you have damage, domination, and duration. Right. Obviously, damage when a fighter's actions lead to visual evidence of swelling, cuts, and it could be diminished spirit and will to continue.
Oh,
that's considered in damage.
Diminished spirit or will.
And
so
some of this is word for word from the ABC boxing, because I didn't want to misquote, and some of it. Like I know, so I just put it in. But that is like quoted from ABC Boxing Commission.
Wow.
Dominance. So obviously MMA is an offensive-based sport. You don't get credit for defense.
No.
So dominance of a round can be seen in striking, when the losing fighter is forced to continually defend with no counters or reaction taken when openings present themselves. Dominance in the grappling phase can be seen as fighters taking dominant positions in the fight and utilizing those positions to attempt fight-ending submissions or attacks. Merely holding a dominant position shall not be a primary factor in assessing dominance. So, what a fighter does with those positions is what must be assessed.
For
dominance.
Let's say right off the rip, boom, you get full mount. Boom, boom, you beat that dude up. He gets up. He's got a big goose egg on his eye. He's got a cut from being in full mount, but he survived the whole time. That's 10-8 round.
Yeah. If that happens for the because you got duration as well, right? So duration is defined by the time spent by one fighter effectively attacking, controlling, and impacting their opponent.
Let's say he's 4 minutes out of that whole 5 minutes right there.
Could be a 10-8 round.
10-8 round, man.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And
I
think
agree as well. Let's say the same thing. He's on the back. And he's punching, boom, he gets him in a rear naked choke. I mean, it's a boom, the guy gets out. Boom, boom, punches and keeps him there. Guy escapes, gets full mount. Boom, boom. It's still 10 right now.
So do you think, your personal opinion, do you think that we see enough 10-8s scored in MMA?
Yeah, I think there's plenty, man. I think usually when you do see a 10-8, it's usually because
it's
the guy's either got knocked down flat and then kind of came back to life, and continued to fight. Like if you get
in a sequence
dropped,
they probably could have been stopped.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's 10-8 round 2. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I didn't know but that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, it's potentially fight ending.
Yep.
You know, it has a potential to end the fight, but it, you know, somehow that guy or girl continues to fight.
But did you know that a 10-8 does not require a fighter to dominate their opponent for 5 minutes of a round?
Right.
So
it's based on the time.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be the full 5 minutes.
Yeah, but it might not even. It might only be 3 minutes.
Right.
Like it's like there's
it
so
could
much
be even.
that goes into
it. Could be a lot of stuff going on even, and then let's say a dude gets a drop. He drops a guy, almost flatlines him for 30 seconds, right, or 15 seconds of the fight, but he dropped him, and then he comes back up. That could be a 10-hour round too.
Yep. So another quote from the website, and all this is on ABC Boxing. If you want to look it up, I swear I'm not lying to you about any of this.
Not lying, guys. Honest Atwood here.
That's right. Honest
Atwood. I just saw Honest Abe.
That's what. As soon as you said that, it made me think of that. So judges shall always give a score of 10-8 when the judge has established that one fighter has dominated the action of the round, had duration of the domination, and also impacted their opponent with either effective strikes or effective grappling maneuvers that have diminished the abilities of their opponent. Judges must consider giving a 10-8 when a fighter shows dominance in the round, even though no impactful scoring against the opponent was achieved. So there's different elements to 10-8s that make it hard and could almost always be controversial to whoever, you know, depending on who's viewing the fight. Again, Eminem. I said Eminem. MMA is an offensive-based sport. So, you know, no scoring is given to defensive maneuvers or using smart, tactically sound defensive maneuvers that allows the fighter to stay in a fight and to be competitive. Now, there used to be, I think back in the day, it was called effective defense. Was in the scoring criteria.
Had no clue about that.
But I think that's been gone for a long time.
That's stupid.
Yeah, thank you. I agree.
What, are we playing football here? You know, like, man, he had a really good defense. Didn't allow that person to punch him once, but he didn't do shit. The other person threw a million punches, but that guy defended them all.
Stupid.
That is dumb, man. I can't believe that. I would have never thought that ever.
Yeah.
Effective defense.
Yeah, and it might have been, I think it was called.
So I get caught in a triangle and I effectively defended the triangle. Like,
so I'm not sure the year that went out, but I remember seeing somewhere that used to be a thing. But
That's
you
crazy.
essentially get credit for escaping
something
a submission that you got put in to begin with.
Yeah, that's wild. Anyways.
So dominance of a round can be seen in striking when the losing fighter continually attempts to defend with no counters or reaction taken when openings present themselves. I think I might have already said that. Dominance in the grappling phase can be seen by fighters taking dominant positions in the fight and utilizing those positions to attempt fight-ending submissions or attacks. Now, that is the key phrase, fight-ending. You must be looking to end the fight. So if you're not, then it's not considered dominant, and it's not considered effective striking or grappling to begin with.
Yeah.
So those,
I was always trying, dude. I feel
like you should. You know?
I think my 19th pro fight, that was the first time I ever went to a decision. I was either getting finished or I was trying to get the finish, man. I wanted to never go to a decision. I hate it. I was like, man, if I go to a decision, I'm scared I'm going to gas out in the third round. And so I remember I took a fight on week's notice, man, and it was my first freaking fight decision win. I fought this dude and cut a bunch of weight. And fought this dude on a week's notice, man, and in Orlando. And I remember going into the third round. I'm like, man, I'm just gonna lay on this dude. I took him down, got full mount. And that's fine. I couldn't punch him with my hand or my right elbow.
You had, what was it, bursitis?
I got kicked in the elbow.
Oh, that's when you hyperflex it?
Well, no, I had just got kicked, and it was just bruised up, and my arm was like jacked up anyways. And then I had hurt my knuckle in training, a couple weeks prior to that, but still took the fight. And so my knuckle was damaged anyway. And, that was a third round. So it was dead at that point in time. Right. So, yeah, I just got, full mountains. Like, if he would have had effective striking or whatever, he would have won,
Right.
But I ended up, and it was his hometown too, man. So I was like, or he was from Tampa. So it was in Orlando. So it's like still Florida, you know.
One thing that will kind of throw us for a loop here, most people who have been following along this entire time about 10-8s, judges must also consider giving the score of a 10-8 when a fighter impacts their opponent significantly in a round, even though they do not dominate the action. So that could be one shot.
Knockdown.
Yeah. Or just one, like maybe it breaks their nose and like their whole
game is changed.
Done after that, you know? So even things like that, all these things must be accounted for real time by a judge to assess. And as soon as that round is over, these judges are filling out the scorecards because somebody's coming around to collect them.
I know. So they got to do it like that, man.
Yeah.
They got a minute to do it.
Yep.
Less than that, actually, because they're coming around to get them,
Mm-hmm.
And so, so they have to judge as they're going. I know they're writing stuff down and stuff and, like, different things. I think they have, like, they write tick marks for takedowns or shit like that.
Yeah, people do different things. I've seen people do different ones.
Yeah, or strikes, effective strikes, and then they'll tally
like hash
those
marks
things.
for, like, what they thought were, like, very impactful shots.
But usually, man, I've never really gotten to see anybody, usually they're all by themselves,
Yeah.
And so nobody can talk to them and shit.
And they're not allowed to move. They're not allowed to communicate with other judges. And I have like after we get through my next little segment, I have something at the very end that I was going to say about that. Question, did you know 10-7 rounds are possible?
Had no clue.
No clue.
No clue, man.
So
that's crazy.
10-7 rounds are possible.
Gotta be getting smashed.
10-7 round in MMA is when a fighter completely overwhelms their opponent in effective striking and or grappling, and a stoppage is warranted, but maybe not given.
Somebody comes in, stop. Oh.
And that's why you never see 10-7s, because they're always getting stopped, right? Like, it's a score that judges, they'll hardly ever give. Some would possibly argue that they should be considered more often. It requires both overwhelming dominance of a round, but also significant impact that at times cause the judge to consider the fight should be stopped.
Khabib ever done that? Because, that dude.
Dude, there's probably, I'm sure that there's rounds out there that plenty of them.
I wonder what he scored on, what's that dude? He fought
You're talking about
Michael
Khabib?
Johnson. Yeah. He fought Michael Johnson.
Well, dude, Mike Johnson almost knocked him out.
Yeah, but like he didn't. That was what.
I think that was early.
Yeah,
and then Khabib obviously took him down, recovered, and just whooped him. But dude, Khabib is probably one of the only dudes you can look at and be like, he's probably got more 10-8 rounds that could have been scored 10-8s or possible maybe 10-7s.
Than
anybody.
Dude, he was smashing,
just dominant everywhere.
Michael Johnson in the face, and he was just pinned to the mat. Dude.
I think that was one of the first times where he started talking to Dana while he was beating him up.
Boom.
He was just talking to Johnson like, you should quit. I deserve this. You should just quit.
He's just smacking him, dude. And I'm just like, you should quit. Boom. You should. Boom. Why are you make me do this? Boom.
Yeah.
Like, God, man. I remember I couldn't imagine being the ref in that fight, just hearing that smack. And, but the guy, he's coherent.
Yeah.
But he's getting freaking whacked, man.
The entire time, man. And Khabib is one of those guys too. It's like it's almost like he played the role like the older brother, like that. It's bigger and stronger, holds you there and smacks you, and just kind of like talks a little smack at the same time.
Man, that fight helped me so much in my grappling game, though, man. Like his Dagestan handcuff that he does, it helps me so much now. Like, and I know how Khabib kind of does what he does, now, and it's helped me so much as far as like with my pressure, my control for MMA. Like if I was still fighting MMA, man, like that would have been just a game changer for me. Just the way I grapple now would have been, I'm 40 years old, bro. What am I going to do? Come out of retirement after being retired for 5 years?
Dude, you can always,
I
can do
combat jiu-jitsu. I thought about that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Doing
didn't think about
combat
that. You could do
jiu-jitsu
that.
again.
Imagine having a Dagestan handcuff there and just bam,
Boom.
bam.
Just
Because it's only
beating that guy.
it's only open hand,
Open
right?
hand. Yeah, but you can smack with your
With your palm.
boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, do a little boss rooting action, man. You know about boss rooting?
Oh yeah, I know about Boss.
Old boss.
I hate listening to him talk, but
He's annoying.
loved watching him fight.
The liver kick.
Yeah.
So,
He's got that.
fun fact, I was on, so he was on, what was that TV show? Remember, so HDNet or something like that? Remember, like, satellite TV back in the day?
Yeah.
What's the Mavericks owner's name? What's that guy's
The
name?
who? Oh, Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban. What was didn't he own HDNet?
I have no idea.
It was like an HD
wouldn't doubt it.
network where
I know he got
So they
rich because
had-
he would create things like that and then sell them.
so he had
Yeah.
a satellite TV show. It was on HDNet, and they started doing fights on there.
Mhm.
And then there was a TV show called MMA Live or something like that. I was on that show, man.
Oh, word.
Yeah, I got fight of the week or knockout of the week, I think,
Oh yeah.
on that show. When I knocked out John Del Bruges in CFFC. Yeah, it put me on there.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
I wish I could have things I could say like that. Like that was one time, got fighter of the year,
Yeah.
submission of the night.
Yeah.
Komura them.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, that was I ended up winning knockout of the night too for the promotion, and they sent me a $250 check in the mail.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's $250,
so
250, but it was
$250.
still $250 bucks,
Yeah.
man. I
That's
didn't
still
make
a lot of money.
I think I made $850 to fight, $850 to show, $850 to show, $850 to win, and then that $250 check.
Nice.
But I had some sponsors. I was sponsored by Onnit back then. That was good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Joe Rogan's company.
Yeah. Yeah. They
That's
gave me. They
sick.
sent me a big old care package and
Alpha Brain.
sent me Alpha Brain,
think that
Shroom
works?
Tech. Yes. I took Alpha Brain before I teach. I take Alpha Brain Black
Okay.
Label first. So I usually take about 2. You can have I think 4 or 6 throughout the day.
God, man, I
Or
couldn't
something
imagine.
like that, but it doesn't make you. I take 2.
I've taken it
makes
once.
me smooth. The Black
Yeah.
Label
Oh,
or just
not sure.
Alpha Brain.
I think it might just. I'm not sure. It might just be regular. I got it at CVS. So
Yeah. So I order my I take the Onnit like day packs, Total Human Performance day packs and night packs, and then I also take the Shroom Tech. I also take the Alpha Brain. I only take the Shroom Techs before I'm training or anything like that, but the Alpha Brain, it helps me, man. Like
I feel like it helped me. I took it before I came to class one day.
Yeah.
I feel like it helped me.
connect the dots.
Yeah, like just retain it.
You're just
know?
a little bit more squared away.
Right.
Yeah.
But dude, I can't take pills this freaking big.
Yeah, nah. They're like little gel caps. They're
Oh,
not
really?
gel caps. They're like
The one I took, the
coated
pill was like
ones.
that big.
Yeah.
So what I did was I just pulled the capsule apart and just like, but dude, that tasted so bad, I almost threw up. But
Yeah.
but so like, I basically have like some closing statements here that I had wrote down, kind of from the, I guess, from my point of view of being like a ref. So I'll just read it. So, you know, me personally, I believe that, I mean, you don't see 10-7 rounds because mostly by that time, I mean, a ref has just gotten there and just stopped the fight. Now, we have seen what can be considered as late stoppages or, you know, even very late
Very
stoppages.
late.
And we've seen one of them recently.
Yeah.
Where the dude was did he get
Unconscious.
triangled and he went unconscious
Just
and then dude hit him in an
unconscious.
arm bar or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Like, and one thing I'll say about that is, unfortunately, those things are going to happen, right? Now, I think most times it occurs during a submission where, you know, multiple factors can come into play, like the positioning of the sub. Like, say there's like an inverted arm bar and it's up against the fence and the dude's free arm is trapped and he can't tap.
Yeah,
and like,
yeah. Or
so-
you're in a guillotine and you like the dude's like, and
Right.
you can't really see what's going on, and his hands
Right.
are here.
Yeah.
Right. They're trying to defend, and you as a ref are like, okay, he.
So
could
you're looking
be
for
uncon-
something.
Yeah, he could be unconscious, and you try to, grab his hand. He's still stiff, but dude might be locked up, too.
Exactly.
Like,
and also, when you see their hands
go,
like that as a ref, you don't want to grab the hand because then you can be interfering with them defending. It's like
like
obviously
they
these
might
things
have
are rare.
their fingers inside defending, and that's the only thing keeping them alive. And they pull, and you, boom, they get the choke, and then it's like then it's your fault, bro.
Yep,
your fault.
And then sometimes, especially if they're in a guillotine, they can't verbally submit,
or say anything, right?
Like, and they might not be able to move their foot either. And even sometimes when you see people moving their feet,
they might be trying to scramble.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's
tough, man.
There's rare times, right? But there are scenarios where those kinds of things happen. And from the average fan, like it's always going to be the ref's fault, which is, I mean, that's something that now I haven't done like the big time shows or anything, but that's something that those guys go into it. And even I guess me with like the smaller shows, we know that going into it. Right. So that's just something that we have to, we're expecting. If something goes bad, but also with the judges, the judges oftentimes have the worst seat in the house. Like, they're ringside, but an octagon has 8 sides. There's 8 posts. Right.
Sometimes what's happening way over there,
and they can't move. They can't communicate with the other judges. So a lot of times that's why you see discrepancies with the scores and judges. Because if it's happening on this judge's side and it's right in front of him, he can see, all right, like this isn't effective because he doesn't have anything. But from the other side, you might only be able to see their back. So you're just like, oh, this dude has his back, and it looks like he might have his arm around the dude's neck, but he doesn't. So these are all things that have to be taken into consideration with judging and reffing. And, especially with reffing, it just goes back to what I said before. Unfortunate things may occur, but it's another reason why training martial arts, specifically jiu-jitsu, are just absolute game changers. And the way that, not only the fight game, how it's evolved,
it helps
for
you
fighters,
with understanding position a whole lot better.
But for reffing as well, So, with all that being said, because obviously me, off camera and even probably on camera, we've had that discussion before of like, referees and judges and what you feel the criteria should be, what I feel the criteria should be, what the criteria actually is. So with all that being said that we've gone over today, when you think about that, do you think there's anything that can be done to the criteria off the top of your head or whatever that maybe isn't there now or is there that could be tweaked a little bit to better the game from a fighter's perspective?
No, because a lot of people don't understand grappling, but it says, position, right? Like it says domination. It says there is no defensive stuff in there. I'm glad that that's out. There shouldn't be a defensive scorecard. There shouldn't be anything like that. But I like, especially these new rules, man. Like I would have never even thought that would even be a possibility for them to come up with, time for them, But it's like also me, I'm not a fighter anymore, so I don't really think about the eye poke situation a lot of times, but it does happen a lot. And guys do, it could be fight ending and sometimes career ending, what I'm saying? So it's like something needs to be taking place. And it's good that these rules are changing, man.
And one thing with eye pokes that a lot of people don't know is just doing this, like in a fight, can be illegal. A foul.
And they can, because you're warned before, do not do this
in
at all.
In the fighter meetings,
and consider this your first warning right there.
Now, you rarely see people get, unless there's an eye poke, see a point get taken. But maybe that's something that should be looked at, more from an official standpoint. Like, maybe we should start being more strict with just doing that, and then there will be less eye pokes. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. But I wanted to talk about these things today, not only for the casual fan that will just argue on Facebook, and I don't get into these arguments, but I do read the comments.
Atwood gets into these arguments, guys.
All right, so I did last time. I did last
time.
But also, it's like
guessing. I was just
from a fighter's perspective. Like fighters should know these things too, because it can only help them. You know, especially knowing the 28 fouls of MMA. Like I feel like every fighter and every coach should know the 28 fouls. It's just as much their job to know these rules as it is the officials. Because as you know, in a fighter meeting, we're not going over all the fouls. We're going over the highs and the lows.
Especially if you're a pro fighter, it's like, do you understand the
right? Yeah,
rules?
You've been doing this. You should know by now. Like the difference between the AMI rules and the pro rules, which obviously pro rules there's less, but so. I figured today would just be an educational thing.
Educational for you fools out there, man.
That's right.
Yeah, it was a good one, though, man. That was good. And it's good, and it helps me learn a little bit more, too, as a coach, too.
Yeah, and honestly, like me going over these things today, I mean, as you can see all my notes here that like me going through this only helps, you know.
I wrote a research paper over here, guys.
Yeah, I did some show prep today. It helps me get better, too, you know, so. I just hope that we can get, make it a normal thing for people to know exactly how fights are scored, because when you're watching the broadcast, usually John Anik will say their fights are scored off of effective grappling, striking, octagon control, and aggression, but you don't know that. And for them to go into the detail, it would take forever, right? So aggression and control don't always matter, you know? So I thought it would be a cool pod episode.
It's a very good one.
And with that, my notes are done. I don't even know how long we've been going here, but
I don't know, man. Well, with that, man, thank you guys so much. We're gonna I just want you guys to know we appreciate you all. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. We try to get back to each one of the comments. And yeah, we just appreciate you guys watching, and we're just trying to add to this part of just combat sports, just give you information about it, just all the way around the board, from a fighter's perspective, a fan's perspective, a referee's perspective, certified judge's perspective.
Not licensed.
But anyways, thanks, man.
Yeah. And, this is cool. We enjoy doing this because we're passionate about it. So, if you like that space, that genre, anything combat sports, then go back and listen to our previous podcasts. We have cool, interesting people that we've had on here, from Nick to Jay-Z, Austin, Alan, Kenny Florian. Like it's been cool, and it's only going to get better.
So thank
getting
you
better
guys.
with time. We're like fine wine.
Fine wine.
Get better with age.
Yes.
But yeah, appreciate you guys hanging out, and until next time.
Yep, out.